Hi, my name is Kevin Elstob. I'm the president of the Sacramento French Film Festival, and we're delighted to have with us Sionnan O'Neill from
Hello.
Quincy, California, which sounds very local, but she is someone who has worked for a long time on subtitles in French movies.
That's right, and I don't live in Quincy anymore. I live in Normandy in France.
All right, great. So how did you get started working in subtitles for French movies?
Well, I was very fortunate. As some people who are here tonight might know, I told the story last year when we were opening for a François Ozon film. I met him at a film festival when he was still making shorts. And he was looking for someone to subtitle his shorts at the time, and I was looking to do that work because I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to subtitle films. And the rest is history. I was very fortunate because François Ozon is a very prolific director, and then I got a lot of other work and learned on the job, and Agnes Varda came to me later on.
And you'd started off as a translator then, but wanting to work in subtitles?
No, actually I studied cinema and I love to write, and I guess I'd been told I had kind of a knack for that, so I thought, well, maybe I can do this, and how do you get in? And I just sort of fell in just by good fortune.
And so how did you come to meet Agnes Varda and start working for her?
Right, so Agnes Varda, I was contacted by her production company, I guess it must have been 2002 or 2003, when she was submitting the proposal for her installation Patatutopia for the Venice Biennale, and I just assumed that maybe she had a regular subtitler or translator who wasn't available, and I started with that, and then they kept coming back to me, and I've been her translator up until, and I assume I'll continue translating for her production company at this point now, but I worked with her from that time to her death last year.
Right, so you started after the Glennas, so you're working only on films after that, or did you work on some of her earlier stuff?
Well, actually, she put out a first version of her complete works, which has now been updated, as you can imagine, but when she was doing that, she was putting together her short films, and some of them hadn't been translated. Some had been translated by herself. Also her film documentaire, she translated herself and things, so she wanted to go back over those. And so I had a chance to work on some older films too, including a few shorts by Jacques Demy when they did his retrospective too.
So that must have been pretty useful for this project, because it goes back over a lot of those early films too.
It does, and in fact when I was translating this film, I went back, because I have the earlier version anyway, so I went back and tried to find the subtitles from the original films, and in some cases I went ahead and updated them a bit or changed them if we hadn't done that before, or even if it was mine and I thought, but I did reference those films. It was helpful to sort of have pretty good familiarity with her work.
And how did she approach you for doing this film? Was it just that you had already been working for her, and so you were the natural choice? Or?
Yep, they just come to me every time. Now, to be fair, there have been times when I wasn't available, or when it was so urgent that we needed to share the job. So there's a couple other friends of mine who are also subtitlers who have worked on Varda films, either with me or on their own when I haven't been able to do something, or DVD bonuses and stuff. She has a quite prolific output, and is so I have shared, for example, the Faces Places. A friend of mine collaborated with me, and so I don't want to come across as if I'm like her one exclusive translator, but they will always call me, and then if I can't do it all on my own, then we bring in one of the two other collaborators who've worked with her as well over the years. And she didn't contact me for this film. It was her assistant, and they needed it extremely urgently for Berlin, and unfortunately we never had a chance to really polish the subtitles afterwards, and that was frustrating because they got into Berlin and they made the DCP, and I guess once they've made it, that's it. You can't go back over it. But I was looking at it again yesterday, and although I'd like to tighten it up, I think it's okay. I hope you enjoy the film.
You got the job done.
Got the job done.
The subtitles, you feel, tell the story that they need to, and given that there's so much is in the images as well.
So much is in the images, and it's just, hopefully they make sense, and I think they probably do, but it's true that it was a very, very intense rush job. That I had to also do the spotting. I was sent the film, then they would send versions that had been changed a little bit, so I'd have to redo what we call the spotting, which is placing the subtitle and translate, and so it was long days, short nights, and just grinding it out.
Right, and then this is fairly complex in that you have a lot of excerpts from
Yeah, Yeah.
original films, and then Agnes talking about them. So that
Right.
must have been. How did you work with that?
exactly. Well, I had a little small DVD player next to me, and I had the whole, compilation of her films, and I'd be going around trying to find, just even to hopefully save me some time, but then it
Right,
might have
yeah.
actually taken more time than translating them afresh. And of course, as any person who's watched Varda before might know, she has a lot of intricate, interesting word plays. Words
Right,
are very
yeah,
important to her. And so if you can't think of it, on the spot, and if it's something that we'd already thought about in the past, it was maybe
Right,
worth
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
find it in
yeah.
the old films.
Right, because she always does a lot of word plays, like in
Yeah.
murmure, for
Yeah.
example, which is like wall, but then also
Right.
a murmur at the
Right.
same time, and that kind of thing. So do you do a lot of looking into things as far as like research in English, the vocabulary that's used and stuff, or you just kind of wait till it comes along?
Well, obviously, if you have enough time, and even if you don't, you're going to end up as a subtitler in general, and in particular with someone like Agnes Varda. You have to do some research, do some thought. There are words in French that are fantastic
Right.
because they cover a lot of ground, like the word rencontre that she
Mhm.
uses a lot, but that we don't seem to have one word that just covers it in every case, so I end up having to translate it in different ways for different contexts. And that was one of the things watching it again yesterday. I was a little thinking, that's something I would have liked to have thought about a little more, but it's tricky, obviously. Translation's always going to be a bit tricky that
Yeah,
way.
it
That's
is,
part of the
yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And if you have the time to really think things through, then you're going to have maybe more chances of getting to something that you're happier with. And of course, Varda speaks or spoke quite good English, and we would, on previous films, there just wasn't time in this case, but we
Okay.
would talk and discuss, and she would, let me know how
So
she
she's
felt.
someone who pays close attention to
Very
the
close,
subtitles as well as
Yeah,
her actual words that are in there, but then the
Absolutely,
words that
yeah.
are coming up to represent what she said.
yeah.
She works closely on that, and that
Very
must
much
that
so,
must
yeah.
take a lot of time. Must be
It
quite.
can take a lot of time, which was why, since this was very much of a rush job, her assistants and her daughter, I said, has Agnes had a chance to see the subtitles? And they said, no, we can't show them to her because there won't be time.
Okay, yeah.
She'll want to
She'll
read
wanna
them, and
spend
she'll
time,
want to
yeah.
talk about them.
Mhm.
And of course, I would want that too, but we
Yeah.
just didn't have time.
Yeah. What was it like working with her then when you did go over subtitles?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, she's a genius. I mean, an absolute artistic genius, so creative and such a doer.
Mhm.
And the few times, I mean, we had quite a few times, but on the phone, but the one time in particular, I remember we were going over her subtitles for her autobiographical film documentaire, which I highly recommend, by the way, as all her films. But
Right.
I was able to go to her office in the morning, and she had some croissants and
Mhm.
tea, and we spent hours going over that translation and discussing word choices, and I was just pinching myself. Her office was also where she lived, Rue de
Mhm.
Guerre, which will be
Right.
mentioned in this film, you'll see. And it was just like a museum, a
Mhm.
cinema museum, and it was
All the time with her, it seems like there's almost like a play on words for everything.
yeah,
Just that she lives in the Rue Daguerre,
Yeah.
which is the
Yeah.
photographer's name. Whether she chose that because it is the Rue Daguerre or not,
And that brings us to something really very essential about Agnes Varda, which was that it was seamless.
Mhm.
Work, life, family,
Yeah,
art,
yeah.
creation, the personal, the political,
Mhm.
everything was just of a piece with Agnes Varda.
yeah.
And to me, that's what's in some ways even quite revolutionary about what she was doing.
Yeah, I think that when you listen to her talk, she's it's a little bit misleading at times because it seems that she's just very ordinary in what she's saying, and then
Yeah.
it's really quite profound. Like
Yeah.
the first three things she says in this film, where
Yeah.
she talks about herself as having inspiration, and then the creation with a team, and then having to share it
yeah,
with the public. It's
Yeah.
really quite simple, and then
Yeah.
at the same time really quite profound, and also kind of like a way of living.
absolutely. It was a way of life, and I think that what she did was make the ordinary extraordinary,
Mm-hmm.
but not in any kind of highfalutin way,
Right, yeah.
but in just a very beautiful way.